Live first, some people are trying a new approach to weight loss medications like Ozempic, Wegovy, and Zepbound. Under the supervision of a doctor, some are microdosing, taking very small amounts of the medication. They're hoping to minimize the risk of side effects while still getting some of the benefits. ABC's Eva Pilgrim has that story.
Microdosing meds used for weight loss.
It just makes me feel better about myself psychologically, that I can say no and that I don't have to eat sweets or too much food.
Erica Liebman, a psychologist in Philadelphia, was worried about all the possible side effects taking Ozempic. So under the supervision of her doctor, she decided to try microdosing, or taking very small amounts of the medication.
What I have found is that I'm able to put my fork down when I want to, when it's a healthy time, instead of when I've already started to regret how much I've eaten.
People on GLP-1 medications typically start by taking lower doses before gradually working up to higher doses over the course of several weeks. This is what is FDA approved and has been studied for safety and effectiveness in clinical trials.
Sometimes you start at a lower dose, you get the body kind of acclimated to the drug, and you minimize those side effects, and then you up titrate the dose over time.
For Michael Hammer of Los Angeles, after taking the recommended dose of Ozempic for 3 months, he was ready to give it up because he says his side effects were unbearable.
I would order food, and when the first bite came in, I would just immediately get overwhelmingly full and nauseous. And it would just make it to the point that I was not consuming enough calories and really was worried about malnourishment.
That's when he says a medical professional who prescribed the medication to him through a telehealth company suggested he try microdosing instead. He's been doing it for 2 years now and says it changed his life.
It allowed me to lose the weight that would have taken me, I did it in 8 months instead of 2 years. But also, it allowed me to reset my lifestyle.
While Michael and Erica say microdosing is working for them, doctors say there's no science right now that shows microdosing these medications is effective. There isn't even a true dosage range for microdosing.
I don't recommend microdosing to my patients. There's just not enough research there, and it's much easier to titrate these medications along the FDA-approved indications and doses.
And that doctor we spoke to adds that it's important to rely on the science here, and the science for microdosing just isn't there yet. But he says for anyone on one of these medications having trouble with the side effects, talk to your doctor. There are ways to lower the doses. Don't just choose a dose on your own. Diane?
ABC's Eva Pilgrim, thank you. And ABC News contributor Dr. Lok Patel joins me now for more. Dr. Patel, some of these patients we just heard from say microdosing these drugs changed their lives. But doctors say there's no science right now that shows microdosing is effective, and not even a true dosage range, really, for microdosing. So what do people need to know about this?
That's exactly right, Diane. When it comes to attempting to take a lower dose or following these protocols people may find online, you don't know what you're actually doing, and there's no data to actually prove this may even be efficacious or may actually work. People are likely turning to microdosing because they're trying to avoid side effects or reduce costs. And I will tell you, in researching for this story, I was going online and finding these protocols designed by people who don't have any experience prescribing these drugs. These are non-board certified healthcare professionals. And this type of behavior may lead people to doing potentially unsafe practices like taking off-label medications or taking weight loss drugs from compounding pharmacies, which we know can be dangerous. So you want to follow a doctor's advice if you're having any trouble with these meds.
Now, another patient in that piece said he would get full and nauseous after the first bite and then wouldn't consume enough calories per day. What do you make of that? What are the risks here?
According to reports that we've seen, this can happen with some individuals because we know these medications affect people differently, which is why in some situations, if people have really bad side effects, your doctor may recommend a different dose, adjust your titration or your dosing schedule, maybe even potentially switch you to a different GLP-1 drug, or there may be some lifestyle interventions that may help. But the bottom line is that doctors who prescribe this know exactly what to do if you're having trouble, and that's who you should be turning to, not to Reddit or TikTok, where people are out there making their own protocols.
ABC News contributor Dr. Lok Patel, thank you. Coming up, just a few weeks until Christmas and Hanukkah, we've got a look at the hottest holiday gift trends and deals you can take advantage of right now.
The news never stops. We are here in Israel, a nation at war.
We heard what appeared to be gunfire. The former president rushed off the stage.
Hurricane Helene ravaging the coastline of Florida.
It's moving really fast, screaming across the state.
And that's why ABC News Live never stops.
Taking you to the center of the story.
As news breaks live.
We hear those small arms fire around us.
We're right on the border between Ukraine and Russia.
ABC News Live is there for you at the start of your day, all morning live.
ABC News Live, right there, as events unfold across the day. ABC News Live, breaking down the day's top stories.
Lyle and Eric Menendez, there is new evidence in this case.
ABC News Live Prime going there, wherever the story is.
Are you going to build it back up?
And ABC News Live lighting up the weekends.
With breaking news and all the latest pop headlines.
Happy Oscars Sunday.
A lot to watch for tonight.
ABC News Live.
Because the news never stops.
You know something serious about to happen. I have an idea.
You guys have eyes on your targets.
Shouldn't we strategize?
Come on, we're gonna improvise. Freestyle.
No.
Hey, good morning, America.
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 Every day of your life.
ABC's David Muir, the most watched newscast in America. More Americans watch ABC's World News Tonight with David Muir than any other newscast. America's #1 news, ABC News, now streaming 24/7 on Disney+.
I'm Faith Abube in Atlanta. Wherever the story is, we'll take you there. You're streaming ABC News Live.
Welcome back to ABC News Live. First, just over 2 weeks until Christmas and Hanukkah, and it is time to get your shopping done if you haven't already. In this segment, sponsored by Amazon, their VP of Fashion and Fitness, Jenny Freshwater, is sharing tips on some of the best gifts for the whole family with ABC's Lara Spencer.
Everybody at home can follow along by scanning the QR code there on your screen. And Jenny, thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Coming in from Seattle. And you
have...
Oh, yeah, you like listen to what they say.
We
you
do.
Get the feedback. That's
we
so
listen.
Smart.
Yes, and we have a wide selection of gifts at great prices this year.
Yeah, but how do you help us, like, if we go on there and we're like, oh my gosh, it's a little overwhelming. What do I get for the team?
Well, this year we have Rufus, which is an AI shopping assistant for your hard to shop for people.
Yeah.
You can ask Rufus any question.
I love Rufus.
And it will tell you some good gift ideas.
Okay, great. Or let's start with a great idea, which is the Dust Buster.
The Dust Buster, yes. So the Dust Buster, I have 2 kids, 2 dogs.
Yeah.
And so this one is a must for us. This Dust Buster is on sale for $49.
It's like the second generation Dust Buster. Because I had this one, a long time ago. Now they're wireless. They're super easy
fast,
to use.
super easy to use, and you can take it anywhere. House, car.
Yeah, just leave it
clean
in the
up
car,
all those
in my
messes.
case.
Yes.
The deal is
$49 today.
That's really great.
Yes.
Normally, what would it be? A lot more?
A lot more.
Okay, there you go.
Yes, it's a great deal.
All right, Jenny, let's talk about this next one for the lounge lover in your life.
The lounge lover. So my social media feed is filled with everybody taking cute photos in holiday jammies.
Yeah.
We have a variety.
We have breaking news. Jordan Neely's family speaking outside court after a jury found Daniel Penny not guilty of criminally negligent homicide in Neely's death on the New York City subway. Let's listen.
Let us know that our lives have value. Jordan Neely was choked to death by someone who didn't care people was telling him to stop. Last week, the jury they couldn't decide on the top charge, but they come back this week and they give up on us. The family's hurt. I promised this family that we would get justice. We're still going to do that. We're going to move forward with our suit. The district attorney did a good job, but the jury in this case let us down. So now here's what we have. We have a call to action. because you have to do something with this anger and with this rage. Our call to action is to take care of each other. We can't rely on outside people. If we see someone going through something, to ask them if they're okay. That's how we help each other, because we can't rely on the system to do it for us. And clearly, if we get to this point, it's too late. We have to be there for each other, and that's our call to action. Everybody that's pissed off at this verdict, I challenge you to go outside today and help one person. That's my challenge. If you're angry, if you're hurt, go help one person. That's how we beat the system. That's how we turn this around, by being there for each other.
I just want to say, I miss my son. My son didn't have to go through this. I didn't have to go through this either. It hurts. Really, really hurts. What are we gonna do, people? What's gonna happen to us now? I had enough of this. The system is rigged. Come on, people. Let's do something about this.
Let's do something about it. Too often, we have Eric Garner's mother here. There's too often this is happening where we're left alone in this society. We got to stop that. We have to change how we impact each other. Jordan came on that subway car. The first thing he asked for was food, and he was killed. And the person who killed him was not held responsible. We cannot allow this to keep happening.
Okay. Oh. Look like the police are attacking protesters.
Are they?
Attacking protesters.
Good morning, everyone. Here we stand once again in front of this unjust system. Hard to get the anti-chokehold bill passed, which did pass. But it shouldn't only be for police officers, it should be for civilians also. No one deserves to be choked to death. No one. And you know, we're in that courtroom and people are cheering for the verdict. They made the loudest noise, the judge did nothing. But when his father spoke out, they put him out the courtroom. Is that justice? Or what? We can't allow this to keep going on. We have to fight this system. That's what I had to do. I had to fight to get the little justice that I got. I got one police officer fired. There's more that need to be fired. But I tell this family, do not give up. Because that's what they want you to do. They want to discourage you. Just like they tried to discourage me, but 10 years later, I'm still fighting. And I'm not only fighting for myself, I'm fighting for families like yourself. That's why I have to come out when this injustice is done. If this had been the other way, if your family had murdered this so-called innocent guy now, it would have been a different story. He would have been in jail or would have never came out. But they don't do the same to us. It's two justice systems.
You know that.
And we have to stop this. And the only way that we can stop it is to stand together. Those of us who are against what happened, we have to speak up. We can't treat this just like another news story, not another press conference. We have to speak up, and stand up. So I just say today, we did not get justice once again. And I am saddened. I am truly saddened by the situation because it keeps on happening and no one is standing accountable for their actions.
We're watching Gwen Carr, Eric Garner's mother, speaking next to the family of Jordan Neely after a jury found Daniel Penny not guilty of criminally negligent homicide in Neely's death. Neely's father spoke earlier, saying the system is rigged. Prosecutors had claimed Penny held Neely in a chokehold for too long, causing his death, while the defense argued Penny acted in self-defense. ABC's Stephanie Ramos joins me from outside a New York City courtroom, along with ABC News legal contributor Brian Buckmeyer here with me in studio. So, Stephanie, what's the latest on this verdict?
Well, Diane, protesters and counter-protesters have gathered here outside the courtroom. Protesters chanting no justice. They've also been saying Jordan Neely's name. Counter-protesters can be seen holding signs that read Daniel Penny is a hero. The jury today deciding that 26-year-old Daniel Penny, a former Marine, is not guilty of that lesser charge, criminally negligent homicide, which would have carried about 4 years in prison. When that verdict was read in the courtroom, there was a mix in reaction. There were cheers and there were cries. But right now, we know that police are with some of the protesters and counter-protesters within the pen to try and keep the peace there right now. But again, a mixed reaction in the courtroom and outside here in downtown New York City.
One of the things that the family's attorney, Dante Mills, pointed to there was the fact that the jury was hung on the top charge of manslaughter, but then today came back with not guilty on the lesser charge. What did you make of that?
It's confusing, not just in the sense of how they went about this verdict, first asking questions about justification, and then evidence about the chokehold and video, and then the definitions of reckless and negligent, then coming back and forth. It seemed like there was some real infighting in that deliberation room, and I'm really curious as to what happened there. Hopefully a juror comes out and lets us know. But I think, and maybe my opinion is wrong, I think this had less to do with the elements of the crime and more just of the division of the city. That the defense probably did a really good job of picking the right jurors for this case, that ultimately came down and said, no, I want a Daniel Penny in the train when a situation like this happens. It doesn't make sense to me from a legal elements of the crime, but it makes sense to me in terms of how the city overall feels about the dangers and violences that they perceive in the subway.
Now, Dante Mills talked about system failures here. The fact that Jordan Neely was on that train to begin with, asking for food. Does this family have any other recourse? Could they, for example, sue the city or some other government entity here?
I mean, you can sue whoever you want. Whether or not it's going to be successful is the other question. I don't have all the facts as to why Jordan Neely was in the subway at that time, whether someone released him from some sort of mental health institution or some sort of health institution and he wasn't supposed to be released, if there were some sort of procedures that were overlooked or not done according to the proper process, then yes, then you can maybe pull together some sort of civil rights claim, but I don't see it, at least based on the information that we have, and I don't think going after Daniel Penny in a civil lawsuit will help them all that much either.
Stephanie, we also just heard from Neely's father there calling this verdict the result of a rigged system, and we heard Gwen Carr referencing the fact that Neely's father was also told to leave the courtroom at one point during today's hearing. What was the scene like there, and what sort of reactions are you hearing?
Oh, similar to what you just described. I mean, we understand that Neely's father was in the courtroom and did curse when that verdict was read, and that's when he was asked to leave. But then there were others that applauded that verdict, and that's the same type of reaction that we're seeing here. The defense lawyers saying in court, telling the jury in court that this was like Brian mentioned, you wanted a Daniel Penny in that subway because this was a heightened situation, because they say Jordan Neely was threatening others. They said that he had thrown this was last year, back in May, that Jordan Neely had thrown on the ground his jacket, was loudly ranting about being hungry and thirsty, and that he was approaching a bench full of women, and that's when Daniel Penny reacted. The jury clearly went home on Friday when that manslaughter charge was dismissed and thought about this, and they were ready to deliver their verdict today.
So, Brian, is there any recourse for prosecutors in this case at this point?
As the facts exist now and today as we know them, no, because they chose to dismiss the manslaughter charge when there was a hung jury, and then ultimately the jury decided not guilty on the criminal negligent homicide. But if we find out that there's some sort of impropriety or something happened within the jury room during deliberations that was inappropriate, illegal, or not supposed to happen, theoretically speaking, the prosecution could have an appeal based on that. But those are very rare, and I'm not sure if we're going to see something like that existing here. But as we see it now, no, there's not much more the prosecution can do.
So, Stephanie, what are you watching for now?
Well, we understand that Daniel Penny is still set to walk out of the courtroom. We're waiting for that. It's unclear if he'll exit from another part of the building, but we understand that he flashed a brief smile when he walked out of that courtroom and then went back to his stone-faced demeanor that we've seen this entire time, the entire week last week, as the jury was deliberating and hearing this case. But he's free now. He has now been cleared on both charges, and we'll see how protesters here outside of the courtroom handle that.
Ryan, could this now spark larger conversations of how the system failed here and potential changes here in New York?
I think it could spark larger conversations, but I don't. Hey, I've been wrong before. I could be wrong now. I don't see where the failure in the system is. The system tried Daniel Penny. They indicted him. They tried him. They dismissed one count so the jury can go to the next. If you wanted, at least as I saw, what it was supposed to do. It saw the charges, it pushed forward, it tried for conviction, and it didn't get it. For me, I look at this and I think the will of the people. The jury decided what they wanted to decide.
All right. Stephanie Ramos, Brian Buckmeyer, thank you both. And we have breaking news here. Law enforcement sources tell ABC News police in Pennsylvania are questioning a man in connection to the murder of UnitedHealthcare CEO. A witness called police after seeing this man walk into a McDonald's in Altoona, saying they recognized him from the images police circulated. Senior investigative correspondent Aaron Katersky joins us now, along with ABC News contributor Brad Garrett for more. Aaron, what's the latest on this man and how police ended up pulling him in for questioning?
Well, you said it. He entered a McDonald's, as sources have told me, and he was recognized from the images that police have circulated. Altoona police were called, and they went and picked him up, and they found him to be in possession of a fake New Jersey driver's license, which is the same kind of fake ID police have said the shooting suspect in the Brian Thompson murder used to check into a hostel on Manhattan's Upper West Side. He was also found in possession of a computer and a gun. A gun was similar to the murder weapon used in Thompson's killing.
Brad, what do you make of these details now coming out?
You know, this is potentially exactly what you want to happen in a high-profile case. You basically plaster a person's picture across the board, across the country, and then somebody hopefully comes forward. In this case, this Good Samaritan did come forward. It may not be the right guy, but certainly the preliminary information would certainly suggest it may be the right guy. The real question is, how do you eliminate him or not? Quickly, for example, if they have a partial print, if they have enough points, they might be able to print him and see if they can get a preliminary maybe ID, not something they can immediately go and look at. Obviously, they'll print him and throw that in the system, as I mentioned before. But, you know, this is just a great find if, in fact, it's him.
How big of a deal is the gun here? If he's carrying a gun similar to what police are saying was used in this crime, given police are saying this wasn't your run-of-the-mill handgun that you might expect to be used in a crime like this? Brad?
Well, you still have to link the gun to him. Granted, it may be exactly this veterinary-type pistol that you have to manually rack each time for it to shoot. But until you prove that that's actually the gun, I'm not sure that in and of itself. It's just all of the preliminary information seems to be very positive if it ends up being true. I think it's going to be a while before we get that for the police to say, this is the guy, just because of what I'm talking about. You've got to eliminate it one way or the other, and you're going to have some verifiable action for that to occur.
And Aaron, we're looking at video of divers having checked out a pond in Central Park. Obviously, police trying to look into every angle they have. What's the latest on the investigation right now?
Well, this is the investigation. You know, they want to recover as much evidence as they can for an eventual prosecution. So far, nothing they've turned up has led police to the suspect. In other words, they have a water bottle. It had a smudged fingerprint. Once they figure out who their suspect is, that fingerprint could come in handy, but nothing so far led them to the killer. So what they've been relying on is the imagery that they've selectively chosen to put out to the public, hoping that someone will come forward. And it appears that's exactly what has happened. So they want to recover evidence. They're going to keep doing that, no doubt, for a possible prosecution. But the best break in the case they've had so far appears to come from a heads-up citizen taking a look at the imagery, taking a look at this person who entered a McDonald's and calling police.
And Aaron, what are you hearing in terms of a reaction from the healthcare industry? Because they found deny, depose, defend on the bullet casings. Police said this fake money also involved. What are police saying about that? What that says about a potential motive here? And how are other healthcare companies reacting to that?
They haven't said what the motive is, but they certainly are looking at those pieces of evidence that you mentioned, Diane, and investigating whether this was some kind of a grudge against the insurance industry or UnitedHealthcare in particular. They've ruled out anything having to do with Brian Thompson's personal life, but they just don't know for sure. But the insurance industry is certainly taking this seriously. UnitedHealthcare headquarters over the weekend, they put up fencing all around the office. And a number of other health insurance companies have told their employees to work from home. They're closing their offices. So this has had a chilling effect.
And Brad, it also comes as ABC News obtained this video showing the suspect. Thompson is when he goes ahead and moves in. What do you make of that video and then connecting the dots of everything else they've uncovered in this investigation so far?
So it's another sign that he was there to do what he did, that he's actually on surveillance. He appears to be maybe across the street, but clearly close enough that he can see which direction Brian Thompson is coming from. He spots his target, he quickly crosses the street, and once Mr. Thompson clears him, basically, and he shoots him in the back. So another example of clearly premeditated and focused on a particular target.
All right, we'll see if this is what police end up going on to say is a suspect. We'll find out. Aaron Katersky, Brad Garrett, thank you both. And the Syrian rebel leaders promising a turning point for the region after toppling Bashar al-Assad's regime. Rebels seized the presidential palace after launching a lightning offensive just 2 weeks ago. Assad left the capital over the weekend and has been granted asylum by Russian President Putin. Assad and his family ruled the country in a brutal dictatorship for half a century and engaged in a bloody civil war the past 14 years, backed by Russia, Iran, and Hezbollah. Now concerns are growing over where the country goes from here. The U.S. has roughly 900 troops stationed in the country right now as American forces carried out airstrikes on ISIS positions this weekend. Chief international correspondent James Longman has the latest from the Syrian border.
It's a very, very hectic situation at the border with Lebanon. We've got thousands of people trying to get into Syria and a great many trying to get out. There is huge crowds now formed on the border out of Syria trying to get back into Lebanon because people are terrified about what might happen to them in the new Syria, right? These are people that might live in areas that are sympathetic to Assad, perhaps Assad supporters, people who are just unclear about what's going to happen next. But it is an incredibly unstable situation. This is the chaos that happens during a revolution. We've seen some really disturbing images already of some of what's been going on inside Syria. One particular unverified video that I've seen is of a public lynching of possibly one of Assad's family members. Now, Hayat Tahrir al-Sham is a group which not many people know much about, but its leader has made headlines for having been part of Al-Qaeda in the past, the links to ISIS, and that is what people are really worried about at the moment. But I did meet a few of the Hayat Tahrir al-Sham guys, the rebels who are manning the border on the Syrian side, and it's really hard to put into words just how excited they are. These are young guys who finally have been able to kind of take charge of their own lives, their own destinies. They're excited. There's a naivety there. But the Syrians aren't the ones who can make their own destiny. So a lot of trouble ahead, perhaps. But there are many, many Syrians who are flooding in, and I'm watching them, hopeful that this is the beginning of a better day.
All right, Chief International Correspondent James Longman, thank you. And foreign correspondent Marcus Moore, White House correspondent Karen Travers, ABC News national security and defense analyst Mick Mulroy join me now for more. Marcus, earlier on GMA, the White House National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan celebrated Assad being overthrown, saying his fall is good for the U.S. Yesterday, we saw rebels also celebrating this takeover. So what's the latest in Syria right now, and what are sort of the pros and cons, if you can, call it so simply?
Well, Diane, well, first and foremost, as you know, it's not a simple region. It's not a simple part of the world. And certainly, while some are celebrating what has happened here, as James just alluded to, there are many sides and many different stakeholders. And so while some are elated by these developments, others are concerned. And certainly the countries in the area, the neighboring countries, leaders of those countries are certainly watching very cautiously about what happens next, because you potentially could potentially have more trouble. What will the government look like in Syria? Will there be more violence? And will there be a struggle for power? And the answers to those questions remain to be seen. We're really in a state of the unknown. And as we have heard from the head, the leader of HTS, seeming to indicate that they are supporting a peaceful transition of power in Syria, we'll just have to watch, Diane, and wait to see what happens next. And no doubt you have Turkey, Iran, Israel, and Russia, all with interest in the region, and certainly wanting the situation to go to their advantage, and whatever that means for those countries.
And Karen, this rebel group in particular is known to have ties to al-Qaeda and ISIS. How significant is that? And what's the Biden administration saying about potential threats here?
The president was very candid yesterday, Diane, saying that this is a moment of risk and uncertainty about what comes next. He said that the rebel groups that took down the Assad regime have their own grim record, as he put it, of terrorism and human rights abuses. So certainly expressing concerns about how the new forces there could lead, but still trying to express some optimism that this is a chance for the Syrian people to lead the country in a different direction. The president was also candid about the potential threat of ISIS in Syria, and said that the U.S. is clear-eyed that ISIS could try to take advantage of that vacuum of power and result in their own, reestablish their capabilities there.
Now, Mick, Russia and Iran were key allies to President al-Assad's government, and the Iranian Foreign Ministry released a statement saying Iran will, quote, spare no effort to help establish security and stability in Syria. So where do you see things going from here, considering the other escalating tensions across the Middle East?
So, Diane, this was a major strategic defeat for Iran and Russia. Iran has propped up the al-Assad regime for almost its entire existence, but certainly throughout this civil war, and they're largely responsible for all the carnage that came from that. Where it goes from here, we'd all like to see a transition to a government chosen by the Syrian people that represents all the people of Syria. But the biggest risk is that this coalition that joined together to defeat Assad now doesn't have a common goal, and they might break down into another civil war. And that's why you're seeing Syrians trying to leave. We should all, of course, hope that doesn't happen, and all the regional powers should do everything they can to make sure it doesn't happen. But that is the biggest concern, on top of the fact that there is these chemical weapons that are apparently unsecured that these groups could get a hold of. So there's a lot of concern going forward.
Marcus Moore, Karen Travers, Mick Mulroy, thank you. And I want to bring in Anna Borshovskaya, a senior fellow at the Washington Institute and author of Putin's War in Syria, Russian Foreign Policy, and the Price of America's Absence. Anna, thank you for coming on. What's your reaction to Assad being overthrown and Russia now offering him asylum?
Well, in brief, this is an amazing opportunity for the United States. This is certainly a cause for celebration, and of course, a clear loss for Vladimir Putin. The question is, are we going to take advantage of this opportunity? We now have an advantage to shape not only Syria's future, but also, by extension, the entire region towards greater security and stability. And the question is, are we going to take advantage of this moment?
So what does Assad's fall say about Russia's capabilities, and what does this mean for Russia moving forward? Could it affect the war in Ukraine?
It could absolutely affect the war in Ukraine. It could affect it, frankly, for better or worse. But what Assad's fall does show is that Russia, for one reason or another, has chosen to prioritize its influence in Syria rather than sticking by Assad. In other words, they're looking to retain a presence in Syria, because Syria was never really about Assad or even Syria. It was about an adversarial conflict with the United States. So Russia is not out of Syria. The question is, what are we going to do to ensure that we keep Russia on this losing streak?
Officials say the U.S. hit 75 ISIS targets in Syria yesterday. Israeli forces have launched airstrikes on Damascus, and now Iran's foreign minister says he fears a renewed civil war. So how do you see the next days and weeks in Syria playing out?
Well, I see a lot of instability. I see a lot of exactly the type of discussion that we're having today. What do all the different stakeholders that were already mentioned in your program earlier, how are they going to position themselves? But the question for me also as an American analyst is really amongst this myriad of complexity that is Syria, is the United States going to ensure that it plays a leading role in the transition? Because if the United States plays a leading role, Syria has a future and the Middle East has a future. Ultimately, what this is about American security. If we're absent, bad actors like Russia and Iran will take over.
Washington Institute Senior Fellow Anna Borshovskaya, we appreciate your time today. Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Coming up, President-elect Trump is outlining his agenda for day one of his term, what he said in his first TV interview since the election.
Hey, that's great. But who are the chefs?
Rookie mistake?
Great googly moogly.
Maybe you just need a Snickers.
Sit like this. Introducing Monday Hair Care. Our modern, award-winning formulas. Smooth, hydrate, and protect against whatever life throws at you. No more bad Mondays. Monday Hair Care.
ABC's David Muir, the most watched newscast in America. More Americans watch World News Tonight with David Muir than any other newscast.
Plus.
Welcome back to ABC News Live. First, President-elect Trump is outlining his agenda for day one of his term in his first TV interview since the election. Trump says he can't guarantee Americans won't pay more with his tariff plan. He's also reiterating his plan for mass deportations, but opening the door for exceptions for dreamers. Trump also indicates his deportations could include some in the country legally if they're part of a family with mixed immigration status. ABC News senior reporter Catherine Falders joins me now for more on all that. Catherine, this comes as some of Trump's top cabinet picks, Tulsi Gabbard, Pete Hegseth, for example, are on Capitol Hill trying to fight for support from Republican senators. What's the latest on that?
Yeah, they are trying to fight for support, Diane. There's multiple prospective cabinet secretaries up on Capitol Hill today. Tulsi Gabbard, who Trump nominated to head D&I, for example. Pete Hegseth, who obviously has been meeting with senators a lot, last week included, behind closed doors, trying to convince them that he is right for the job to lead the Pentagon. And you also have Kash Patel, who Trump has essentially said he wants to lead the FBI. Obviously, Patel is very controversial. He said that he essentially just wants to shut down the entire FBI, which probably wouldn't go over well with many of these senators. He's threatened to jail political opponents, Trump's presumed political opponents, and even journalists. So these nominees have a bit of an uphill climb on Capitol Hill. The question, of course, now is where do they stand with these senators behind the scenes? It's been a little more difficult to get a gauge of Hegseth, for example. There's 9 women senators. There's only a couple who have come out publicly, 9 women Republican senators, I should say. Only a couple who have come out publicly and said that they would vote for him. Joni Ernst, one of those, has said she's still assessing and meeting with him. But where does he stand, especially with those women, we don't know. Now, Tulsi Gabbard, of course, in the wake of the news on Bashar al-Assad, she has made controversial comments about him, and her 2017 visit with Assad has, of course, come under fire and additional scrutiny given the news. She's going to have to explain that to these senators up there who may find this to be problematic. She is behind closed doors meetings today. She will continue those meetings, I'm sure, this week, and we'll probably have a better read on what they think then. But the reality is that many of Trump's nominees are controversial, and they will face an uphill battle, at least in convincing these senators that they are fit to serve in the administration. The confirmation hearings surely are gearing up to be quite a spectacle, Diane.
All right, ABC News senior reporter Catherine Falders. Catherine, thank you. Coming up, a civil lawsuit alleges Jay-Z raped a 13-year-old girl with Sean Diddy Combs more than 2 decades ago. How Jay-Z is firing back at the allegations.
Since forever, we've hated Mondays. Monday. But it doesn't have to be like this. Introducing Monday Hair Care. Our modern, award-winning formulas. Smooth, hydrate, and protect against whatever life throws at you. No more bad Mondays. Monday Hair Care.
I think we need a bigger yard.
With our credit? This yard's fine. Go long.
Too long. But then I hear I found you.
Yeah. Look, Credit Karma can show us how to improve our credit for free. Then we can get a place at the bigger yard.
You hear that, Nora?
Yay.
From free credit scores to home loans and everything in between, Intuit Credit Karma. Download the app today.
Sexually assaulting her at a 2000 VMAs after party. The lawsuit originally only named Diddy as the defendant, but was refiled over the weekend, now also naming Jay-Z. Now Jay-Z's denying the allegations, accusing the woman's lawyer of blackmail, and his attorneys challenging a petition by the accuser asking to remain anonymous. ABC News Live anchor Lindsay Davis has the latest.
New allegations leveled against rapper Jay-Z, also known as Sean Carter, accusing him of sexually assaulting a then 13-year-old girl with Sean Diddy Combs after the VMAs in 2000. The new amended civil lawsuit, originally filed by a Jane Doe in October, identifies celebrity A as Jay-Z, claiming that he and Diddy drugged and raped a 13-year-old girl at an after-party and that another celebrity stood by and watched as Combs and Carter took turns assaulting the minor. Combs and Jay-Z both attended the award show that year. Jay-Z, who was 31 at the time, is now a multi-platinum Grammy winner and business mogul who's reached the highest heights of the rap industry.
We are, yeah, I said it, we are. This is Rock Nation, pledge your allegiance.
Jay-Z is vehemently denying the allegations, writing, "This is a blackmail attempt," taking direct aim at the plaintiff's attorney, Tony Busby, saying what he had calculated was the nature of these allegations and the public scrutiny would make me want to settle, going on to say the claims are idiotic, and noting the impact this has had on his wife, music icon Beyonce, and their 3 children. "My wife and I will have to sit our children down, one of whom is at the age where her friends will surely see the press and ask questions about the nature of these claims." Jay-Z challenges Busby to change the civil lawsuit to a criminal complaint. But Busby is standing his ground, writing, "I won't be bullied or intimidated. People will see through this effort to discredit me and my clients, and the truth will be revealed. I also won't allow anyone to scare my clients into silence."
For Jay-Z, the question is, what is next? And for him, it's going to be fighting this civil lawsuit and either trying to get Jane Doe to name herself, provide any evidence that these allegations are true, or fight them based on the facts that he has.
Through his attorneys, Sean Combs denies all allegations against him, saying in court the truth will prevail and that he never sexually assaulted or trafficked anyone. Diane?
Lindsay Davis, thank you. I'm Diane Macedo. The news never stops, and neither do we. We have a lot more news after the break. Stay with us.
At Total Wireless, we got your back every day. Others, not so much. Just look at the facts. We run on the network with America's fastest 5G speeds. They don't. Back them. We give you 50% off the Total 5G unlimited plan. That's only $25 a month for one line. Not them. Wireless.
Welcome back to ABC News Live. First, you're looking at New York City on this Monday, December 9th. Tourists are once again in Paris being welcomed inside the iconic Notre Dame Cathedral after a devastating fire 5 years ago. Dignitaries from around the world attended a grand reopening ceremony this weekend. Foreign correspondent Tom Soufi-Burridge joins me now from Paris with the latest on that. Hi, Tom.
Hey, Dan. Yeah, what a weekend here at Notre Dame. You can see the scaffolding crisscrossing part of the building, so there's still some work on the building to be done, but they're now welcoming the public back inside the cathedral, and after a real amazing opening ceremony as it really reopened in style. Notre Dame reborn in style. Choir back in full voice. the cathedral's 8,000 pipe organ restored and ringing out. Earlier, the Bishop of Paris banging on the doors to officially reopen the cathedral. The iconic bells sounding across Paris again. Those doors swinging open to this awesome sound. First Lady Jill Biden, Prince William and President-elect Trump there Saturday to celebrate the refurbished building in its newfound glory but traditional style. On Sunday, the first Mass in more than 5 years, and late last night, members of the public back inside for the first time since that destructive fire in 2019. The firefighters who bravely extinguished the flames that day, honoured at the opening ceremony with a standing ovation. Well, Diane, you won't be surprised to hear that the online booking reservation system to try and visit the cathedral in the coming days is completely booked out. But one thing you might be surprised to hear is that it's free to get into the cathedral if you are lucky enough to get a place at the moment. And there will be ceremonies, Diane, on each of the coming next 7 days as this celebration continues. Diane?
So, Tom, how significant is this moment for the people of Paris?
I think it's really important. I mean, look, it's the most visited site for tourists anywhere in Europe, not just France, right? I mean, it's such an iconic site for Paris, but particularly this part. I mean, we've got the Seine, the main river, running alongside us here. I mean, this is my favourite part of Paris. I mean, it's absolutely beautiful, stunning. So to think that that cathedral's been closed for 5 years, and we've been hearing the bells ringing out, we've been seeing the priest come out of the cathedral this morning, earlier today, out the front on the other side, and we've seen crowds of people just trying to get a glimpse as they begin to open up this area, because over the ceremony and over the weekend with President-elect Trump here, President Macron here, many dignitaries, of course, this whole area has been largely in lockdown. It's been very, very difficult to get close to the cathedral over the weekend.
So what more needs to be done to finish the renovation completely, Tom?
Well, let's just take you up. Scott, the cameraman, can actually take you up onto the roof there a bit, so to speak. And you can actually see, I think, some of the work people up on top of the roof on the scaffolding there. So that gives you a sense. I mean, they are still doing work to the exterior of the building. And what's interesting, Diane, is actually prior to the fire 5 years ago, there was already restoration work underway, but back then they were struggling to get, the money, about $140 million together to try and do the work that was needed to the stonework. Some of the kind of very old parts of the building were really, structurally they needed restoration work and basically securing. And some of that work that was still was already planned before 2019 was basically before the fire. Sorry, was actually is already under issuance and renovation of the building up until now. They've still got about $140 million in the bank from the donations still to play with, so to speak. So they've still got work to do on the exterior of the building. There are some modern stained glass windows which might not be placed into the cathedral until this year or even into next year. And then there's some other building work to be done to the kind of exterior around the sort of area, the zone around the cathedral. So there's still quite a lot of work. It could take years for all of that work to be done, but the main structural work is finished. And of course, now the cathedral is back up and running. Diane?
Foreign correspondent Tom Soufi-Burridge in Paris for us. Thank you. And Arkansas Governor Sarah Huckabee Sanders is spreading the word about the dangers she says cell phones pose to students in the classroom. Sanders says she became a proponent of banning phones after reading the best-selling book The Anxious Generation by Jonathan Haidt. The governor and the book's author visited an Arkansas school and sat down for this ABC News exclusive with senior national correspondent Steve Osunsami.
It's a cold start in Northwest Arkansas, and they're off to class.
Good morning, Cobra Nation.
Mr. Warren Collier is the talented principal here at the brand new John L. Colbert Middle School in a well-built community that feels like any well-built suburb in America. And as his students walk in, he knows there's a smartphone lurking in every backpack. And today, there are new rules.
So cell phones are not allowed, so they have to keep them in their backpack all day.
The school district is agreeing with the state's governor, who says schools need to do something to clear young minds crowded with texts and Snapchats instead of English and algebra. And while most parents see the wisdom, people are divided on separating kids from their phones.
I think it's a way we can communicate with our child when we need to communicate with them. But it's a double-edged sword.
It's a distraction. I think they should only be used for safety measures, but as far as just having them all day, no.
As soon as they can order enough of these pouches, this is where most of their students will need to place their devices whenever they enter school buildings. Already, nearly a dozen states have passed laws keeping students from using smartphones in schools. And the governor of Arkansas is working on getting her state to do the same.
You would like to see legislation?
Certainly, I would be supportive, not just from a state level, but also a federal perspective. I don't think it's ever been harder to be a kid than it is right now. There's so many pressures, so many expectations, and so much influence on everything that you do, and so often not coming from the best places.
Do you always sit there? No.
Governor Sarah Huckabee Sanders says that as a mother of 3 school-age children, she was inspired to change school rules in her state after reading this book, The Anxious Generation. It's a bestseller that's become gospel to frustrated American educators. Author Jonathan Haidt argues that school children are in worse shape today because they're using smartphones too early.
Well, as a college professor, we all began to notice that in 2014, 2015, the students coming in were really different from the students a few years earlier. They were much more anxious and depressed, much more fragile. Almost everyone had a smartphone, front-facing camera, Instagram, and now it's normal for kids to be doing this all day long. And that, I believe, is what caused this huge increase in anxiety, depression, self-harm.
He says that after 2012 in particular, a great more number of students were diagnosed with anxiety and mental illness. And he says it's no accident this was around the same time when people started replacing their old flip phones with smartphones, putting the stresses of the internet and social media into the palm of their hands. His solutions are getting popular, suggesting that kids should have no smartphones before high school, no social media before they turn 16. And he's telling parents to send their kids to play outdoors with other children and with little adult supervision.
We've got to give kids back a childhood worth having, worth remembering.
Governor Sanders sent a copy of his book to every single lawmaker in her state and every governor in America. She's the one who sent her schools the money for the pouches. 112 school districts have signed up so far. And she's traveling across her state, encouraging more schools to go smartphone free.
We don't have to be overwhelmed by this, and if we work together, we can make it better.
Some of the parents she talked with say that both they and their kids are learning to adjust to students without their devices.
So you learn to be able to go to the nurse and talk to your counselor as a student. In the same way with parents, they learn to call the school and tell them, my kid's not riding the bus, it's riding the car today.
And I think those limits, there are important life skills within the limit, you know, that you can't be on your phone all the time when you're working. And, you know, you need to be able to recognize those instances when it's okay to have it and maybe not so okay to have it out.
At the beginning of it, kids will be mad about it and not want to do it. But I think as it goes on longer and longer, I think it'll get more like the usual.
Their superintendent sees the difference already. Compared to this time last year, he says major disciplinary events are way down.
And we're down almost 50%. And those are things like fights, insubordination, that kind of stuff. And these are things that often stem from some sort of social media or texting or things like that.
The Arkansas governor says she loves hearing all of this because it says to her that what she's doing is good for schools and good for learning.
Knowing that there are things that we can do that can help make this better and stop some of the mental health crisis that's going on in our country, I think that is probably one of the biggest takeaways.
Senior national correspondent Steve Osunsami, thank you. And Governor Sanders says about 75% of the districts in her state have a school attempting to be smartphone free. The University of Arkansas will be monitoring the results of this program and collecting data so we can all see the impact of removing phones from schools. And cleanup and recovery is underway in North Carolina after the devastation of Hurricane Helene this past September. Fixing the debris and damage could take years to fully complete. Justin Berger from ABC's Asheville affiliate has more on that.
Got it, Cleo? Cleopatra might be able to manage getting this stick off her owner Lee Pantis's property, but there's thousands of them. That's good. You're doing good work, Cleo. Keep it up. It's too big a job for her. It's too big a job for Lee Pantis.
And I said, this is going to take more than I can put together to get rid of this. And that's where FEMA comes in, thank God, and also Buncombe County now.
83-year-old Pantis lives on a 6-acre property in Fairview. We met him just days after Helene hit with Cleopatra, watching strangers rebuild his community.
And just neighbors helping neighbors.
His home was spared. His land was not.
We had 4 feet of mud come down the bank behind me with trees and logs and boulders that ended up down through here, and that's those piles.
Those piles, exactly the reason Pantis went to the Fairview Library a few weeks ago.
Simple and very, uplifting and positive.
He wanted to know more about the private property debris removal program.
In this private property debris removal, I'd have to say it's a 1%er of the disasters out there have this sort of program attached to it. So it's really only in the worst cases that you see a private property debris removal even be offered.
Burry works for Tetra Tech, a company contracting with Buncombe County on a variety of tasks, including debris removal. He says nearly 1,100 people have applied for debris removal in less than 2 weeks. The Buncombe County hotline, he says, taking around 100 calls a day on the subject.
The sooner that the debris can get picked up, the sooner rebuilding can begin, and the sooner people can really get to that recovery and resilience.
It's a 4-step process, cost-free. The property owner applies, the county reviews the application, an in-person inspection takes place, and finally, the debris is removed. Pantis taking care of step 3 on Sunday.
He took pictures of the monumental piles of logs and debris that they're going to come in later and remove. So that was the assessment phase.
Burry claims most of the debris is hauled off in the first 6 months following a storm. Good news for Cleopatra, a return to her woods unencumbered.
Justin Berger, thank you. Coming up, a new approach to weight loss medications, what some people are doing to sidestep the side effects and what doctors think about the practice.
Real Amazon customer reviews, performed by a real serious actor. Let's start with the basics, shall we? Sleek, stylish, built to last, effortlessly transforming a lump of dough into a symphony of spaghetti and fettuccine, or whatever pasta shape your heart desires. 5 stars. DJ.
Since forever, we've hated Mondays. Monday. But it doesn't have to be like this. Introducing Monday Hair Care. Our modern, award-winning formulas. Smooth, hydrate, and protect against whatever life throws at you.
This yard's fine. Go long.
Too long. But then I hear I found you.
Yeah. Look, Credit Karma can show us how to improve our credit for free. Then we can get a place at the bigger yard.
You hear that, Nora?
Yay.
From free credit scores to home loans and everything in between. Intuit Credit Karma. Download the app today.
Hey, good morning, America. Good morning, America.
Good morning, America. You don't just see it, you feel it.
I'm in.
I'm in. I'm in too.
I am in.
I'm in.
I'm in too.
I'll be here.
A crew of murderous bounty hunters is coming after us. We have to move fast.
You're a Jedi, right?
Of course.
Skeleton Crew. New episodes Tuesdays on Disney+.
ABC News Live.
Because the news never stops.
Welcome back to ABC News Live. First, some people are trying a new approach to weight loss medications like Ozempic, Wegovy, and Zepbound. Under the supervision of a doctor, some are microdosing, taking very small amounts of the medication. They're hoping to minimize the risk of side effects while still getting some of the benefits. ABC's Eva Pilgrim has that story.
Microdosing meds used for weight loss.
It just makes me feel better about myself psychologically, that I can say no and that I don't have to eat sweets or too much food.
Erica Liebman, a psychologist in Philadelphia, was worried about all the possible side effects taking Ozempic. So under the supervision of her doctor, she decided to try microdosing, or taking very small amounts of the medication.
What I have found is that I'm able to put my fork down when I want to, when it's a healthy time, instead of when I've already started to regret how much I've eaten.
People on GLP-1 medications typically start by taking lower doses before gradually working up to higher doses over the course of several weeks. This is what is FDA approved and has been studied for safety and effectiveness in clinical trials.
Sometimes you start at a lower dose, you get the body kind of acclimated to the drug, and you minimize those side effects, and then you up titrate the dose over time.
For Michael Hammer of Los Angeles, after taking the recommended dose of Ozempic for 3 months, he was ready to give it up because he says his side effects were unbearable.
I would order food, and when the first bite came in, I would just immediately get overwhelmingly full and nauseous. And it would just make it to the point that I was not consuming enough calories and really was worried about malnourishment.
That's when he says a medical professional who prescribed the medication to him through a telehealth company suggested he try microdosing instead. He's been doing it for 2 years now and says it changed his life.
It allowed me to lose the weight that would have taken me, I did it in 8 months instead of 2 years, but also it allowed me to reset my lifestyle.
While Michael and Erica say microdosing a true dosage range for microdosing.
I don't recommend microdosing to my patients. There's just not enough research there, and it's much easier to titrate these medications along the FDA-approved indications and doses.
And that doctor we spoke to adds that it's important to rely on the science here, and the science for microdosing just isn't there yet. But he says for anyone on one of these medications having trouble with the side effects, talk to your doctor. There are ways to lower the doses. Don't just choose a dose on your own. Diane?
ABC's Eva Pilgrim, thank you. And ABC News contributor Dr. Lok Patel joins me now for more. Dr. Patel, some of these patients we just heard from say microdosing these drugs changed their lives. But doctors say there's no science right now that shows microdosing is effective, and not even a true dosage range, really, for microdosing. So what do people need to know about this?
That's exactly right, Diane. When it comes to attempting to take a lower dose or following these protocols people may find online, you don't know what you're actually doing, and there's no data to actually prove this may even be efficacious or may actually work. People are likely turning to microdosing because they're trying to avoid side effects or reduce costs. And I will tell you, in researching for this story, I was going online and finding these protocols designed by people who don't have any experience prescribing these drugs. These are non-board certified healthcare professionals. And this type of behavior may lead people to doing potentially unsafe practices like taking off-label medications or taking weight loss drugs from compounding pharmacies, which we know can be dangerous. So you want to follow a doctor's advice if you're having any trouble with these meds.
Now, another patient in that piece said he would get full and nauseous after the first bite and then wouldn't consume enough calories per day. What do you make of that? What are the risks here?
According to reports that we've seen, this can happen with some individuals because we know these medications affect people differently, which is why in some situations, if people have really bad side effects, your doctor may recommend a different dose, adjust your titration or your dosing schedule, may even potentially switch you to a different GLP-1 drug, or there may be some lifestyle interventions that may help. But the bottom line is that doctors who prescribe this know exactly what to do if you're having trouble, and that's who you should be turning to, not to Reddit or TikTok, where people are out there making their own protocols.
ABC News contributor Dr. Lok Patel, thank you. Coming up, just a few weeks until Christmas and Hanukkah, we've got a look at the hottest holiday gift trends and deals you can take advantage of right now.
Since forever, we've hated Mondays. Monday. But it doesn't have to be like this. Introducing Monday Hair Care. Our modern, award-winning formulas smooth, hydrate, and protect against whatever life throws at you. No more bad Mondays. Monday Hair Care.
Here we help you achieve your money goals fast. Like improving your credit scores in a matter of days fast. So you don't have to wait around to see your hard work pay off. Oh, well done. Simply scan your screen to experience Intuit Credit Karma for yourself.
I'm Ariel Reshef in Norwalk, Connecticut. Wherever the story is, we'll take you there. You're streaming ABC News Live.
Welcome back to ABC News Live. First, just over 2 weeks until Christmas and Hanukkah, and it is time to get your shopping done if you haven't already. In this segment, sponsored by Amazon, their VP of Fashion and Fitness, Jenny Freshwater, is sharing tips on some of the best gifts for the whole family with ABC's Lara Spencer.
Everybody at home can follow along by scanning the QR code there on your screen. And Jenny, thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Coming in from Seattle. And you were telling me that Amazon has a lot of tips and tricks on gift suggestions. Tell us how.
We do. Well, we have lots of shoppers. So we have...
Oh, yeah, you listen to what they say.
We
you
do.
Get the feedback. That's
we
so
listen.
Smart.
Yes. And we have a wide selection of gifts at great prices this year.
Yeah, but how do you help us, if we go on there and we're like, oh my gosh, it's a little overwhelming. What do I get for the team?
Well, this year we have Rufus, which is an AI shopping assistant for your hard to shop for people.
Yeah.
You can ask Rufus any question.
I love Rufus.
And it will tell you some good gift ideas.
Okay, great. Or let's start with a great idea, which is the Dust Buster.
The Dust Buster, yes. So the Dust Buster, I have 2 kids, 2 dogs.
Yeah.
And so this one is a must for us. This Dust Buster is on sale for $49.
It's like the second generation of Dust Buster. Because I had this one, a long time ago. Now they're wireless. They're super easy
fast,
to use.
super easy to use, and you can take it anywhere. House, car.
Yeah, just leave it
clean
in the
up
car,
all those
in my
messes.
case.
Yes.
The deal is
$49 today.
That's really great.
Yes.
Normally, what would it be? A lot more?
A lot more.
Okay, there you go.
Yes, it's a great deal.
All right, Jenny, let's talk about this next one for the lounge lover in your life.
The lounge lover. So my social media feed is filled with everybody taking cute photos in holiday jammies.
Yeah.
We have a variety here. These feel so soft. This is our Amazon Basics collection. They come for the whole fan selection, and it's all 40% off through December 14th.
Wow.
Yes.
And all these deals start today, right? This is the time.
We have deals going all through the holiday season, but this is a great selection of what we've got going today.
Deals, baby.
Rufus will show you.
All right, good. All right, let's talk some jewelry now and other trendy gift ideas.
Well, now we've hit my table, the fashion table, yes. And we've been really increasing our selection across fashion, premium fashion. We've got this Marc Jacobs tote.
My daughter has one of these and loves it.
You can carry it anywhere. It's canvas, all weather, detachable strap.
It fits a computer, fits all your needs.
Fits what you need, and is a great deal today at $159.
All right, great. And then some jewelry?
This jewelry, which I'm also wearing,
I
the
noticed
J.
that. Very
yes,
cute.
Kate Spade, again, really nice selection. And you can buy this for yourself, as I did, or anyone on your list. It's personalized. We've actually noticed a trend that personalized jewelry, with initials and things are really taking off on Amazon. And so this Kate Spade
great idea.
necklace, $28.
I love it. And then let's bring it home with some tunes. I didn't even clap. Thank you, guys. This has a great sound, as you can hear, and an incredible selection, by the way, of music. But this is the Beats Bill with Kim Kardashian. This is a collab.
It is. So this was...
Don't mind me.
We've just come off of Black Friday, Cyber Monday, some of the biggest shopping days of the year, and Beats in general was a top seller.
Yeah.
This particular one is a collab with Kim Kardashian. It's waterproof. You can take it everywhere, as we just heard. It sounds great. It's light, and it comes in a variety of colors. We've got the champagne, gold, red, black, and it also comes in gray for those who love gray.
And a really, really good deal. $99 to $129.95.
That's great.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Jenny.
Thank you.
Love having you here. Amazon always delivers. And guys, these great ideas are thanks to our sponsor, Amazon, as you just heard. You can shop these products and so many more simply by pointing your cell phone camera at the QR code you see there, or just head to GMA's Facebook or Instagram pages for more information. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, thanks to Lara and our sponsors at Amazon for those shopping tips. I'm Diane Macedo. The news never stops, and neither do we. We have a lot more news right after the break. Stay with us.
When I was younger, my calling trucks. So when you find your calling, nothing can stop you from answering it.
America's #1 most-watched daytime talk show is ABC's The View.
You all heard it here first.
This is going to be must-see TV, and so much could happen. That's why it's called The what? The View.
Whenever, wherever news breaks, it's so important to always remember that lives are changed.
Here in London, in Buffalo, Uvalde, Texas, Edinburgh, Scotland, from Poland once again tonight. Thank you so much for streaming with us. Ukrainian refugees here in Warsaw. Do you think you'll ever be able to go back home? We're heading to a small community outside of Mexico City. Splintered houses and splintered lives. The magnitude of the devastation. You're streaming ABC News Live. Reporting from Rolling Fork, Mississippi, Santa Fe, New Mexico, Raleigh, North Carolina, the U.S. Capitol, Mayfield, Kentucky,
Minneapolis,
Mexico, Tongass National Forest, Alaska.
Getting you behind the stories as they happen, giving you a front row seat to our world as it plays out in real time, live.
ABC News Live Prime. We'll take you there.
Stream ABC News Live weeknights, America's most honored streaming news program, only on ABC News Live. Streaming free right now wherever you stream your news. ABC's David Muir, the most watched newscast in America.
What's good to watch, read? Where can I get a great deal on what I'm just dying to buy? Oh, it's all right here. GMA Life. All the exclusive and buzziest celebrity good stuff. Deals and steals with amazing savings and the coolest lifestyle tips from Good Morning America.
I love that so much.
GMA Life. Streaming weekends on ABC News Live. Your weekend just got a little better with GMA Life.
Right now on ABC News Live, not guilty. Daniel Penny walking away scot-free after 5 days of deliberations in the subway chokehold death case. The reactions in a trial that divided New York City. Do police have their suspect in the murder of a healthcare CEO? Well, officers now questioning a man in Pennsylvania after a tip called in from a McDonald's. And new allegations leveled against a top hip-hop star. Jay-Z responds to accusations that he and Sean Diddy Combs raped a 13-year-old girl. What he's saying about a civil lawsuit just filed. Acquitted. Daniel Penny found not guilty in the chokehold death of Jordan Neely. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Kira Phillips. A jury finally delivering its verdict after being deadlocked since Friday. Our Stephanie Ramos joins me now from outside court, along with ABC legal contributor and trial attorney Brian Buckmeyer. So, Stephanie, what was the reaction like in the courtroom, and what is the scene like outside now?
Hey there, Kira. Well, there was mixed reaction in the courtroom and here outside of the courtroom. In the courtroom, we know there was a mix of cheers and cries. We know that Jordan Neely's father was in the courtroom and shouted some expletives when that verdict was read. He was then escorted out. We know that attorneys for Daniel Penny were relieved. This is what they wanted to hear, especially after this past week where the jury dismissed that more serious charge of manslaughter on Friday. The jury they were able to focus on this over the weekend and come in here this morning, and in less than 2 hours deliver that verdict.
So, Brian, let's talk about the verdict and how, what does it tell you about how the jury actually viewed the separate charges and what may have happened during deliberations?
Well, there's a lot more questions and answers, unfortunately, of cause of death. If the jury believed in either of those theories, both the manslaughter and the criminal negligent homicide should have gone away both together. There shouldn't have been this hung on one or deciding on the other. The only thing that I can surmise is that the wording of the jury note, that verdict note, said that you have to consider the top count before moving to the second count. But even then, that scratches my head, because I know that in the previous days of deliberation, the jurors were asking about the definitions for both negligence and recklessness. I think there was a lot of infighting here, but they were very firm on their decision as to that bottom count of criminal negligent homicide.
All right, Stephanie, I know we're now hearing from Neely's father, along with advocates like Eric Gardner's mother. What are they all saying about the verdict?
Well, many of them saying that this system is rigged. They were devastated, upset, and angry about this verdict. Here's a clip of what they had to say shortly after that verdict was read.
I just want to say I miss my son. My son didn't have to go through this. I didn't have to go through this either. It hurts. Really, really hurts. What are we going to do, people?
In that clip, you can also hear some of the protesters and counter-protesters there in the background. They have now dispersed. Police did have to get involved. We know at least one arrest was made, but inside that courtroom, there was also applause. There were some folks that were upset, obviously, those there on behalf of Jordan Neely, but there was applause in the courtroom as well, and we know that Daniel Penny did briefly look at the jury that acquitted him and nodded at them in thanks.
All right, Stephanie Ramos, Brian Buckmeyer, thanks, guys, so much. I know everything is happening right there in the moment. We'll stay in close touch. There's also a lot happening in the moment and a potential break in the case now as police in Pennsylvania are questioning a man that they believe may be connected to that murder of UnitedHealthcare CEO Brian Thompson. Police sources telling ABC News the man was picked up in Altoona, Pennsylvania, after witnesses at a McDonald's there recognized him from the images circulated by police. They also say he had a fake ID like the one the suspect used to check into a Manhattan hostel. We've also obtained these new surveillance videos and pictures showing Thompson's killer lying in wait just moments before the shooting. You can see him there standing in the shadows while people actually pass by. But as soon as he spots his target, he crosses the street and then begins firing. Let's get right to our Rena Roy for more. So, Rena, what more do we know about this man that's being held in Pennsylvania this hour?
Yeah, well, Kira, as you said, we know there is a lot of overlap between this man being questioned and the suspect that the NYPD has been looking for. First of all, sources tell us that this person in Pennsylvania had a fake New Jersey driver's license that actually matches the one the NYPD, and he was traveling through Altoona on a Greyhound bus. Now, you'll remember that the NYPD said he took a Greyhound bus from Atlanta to New York City 10 days before this murder. So just a lot of overlap here. Local law enforcement is telling the NYPD that they think that this is their suspect. NYPD detectives, we are told, are now heading there themselves to question him. Sources telling us that a witness recognized this man when he walked into a McDonald's in Altoona, as you said, from the images that police have been circulating.
Do we know who made the tip via that McDonald's? Was it just a citizen that recognized his face from all these images that we've been seeing?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's what police are saying right now, that he walked into this McDonald's and a witness recognized him again from those images that have been circulating. We've really seen them all over social media. And video obtained by ABC News really seems to match police narrative that Brian Thompson, the UnitedHealthcare CEO, was targeted by his shooter. You know, in the video, you mentioned this, you see this man lying in wait. You see him loitering as others wander by, but as soon as Thompson walks up to the Hilton in Midtown, the killer appears to spot his mark. He runs across the street, opens fire. Seems like he was really keeping an eye out specifically for Thompson. And sources tell ABC just a couple of minutes ago, police recovered writings from the person in custody. So they're interested to see those to see what they might reveal about a motive.
All right, Rena, we'll keep checking in with you to see if indeed this is the man. Be a big break. Thanks, Rena. Hip-hop mogul Jay-Z denying allegations that he raped a 13-year-old girl more than 20 years ago, and his attorney is actually challenging the victim's attempt to remain anonymous. This all comes as an amended lawsuit was filed yesterday, a woman claiming that Jay-Z joined Sean Diddy Combs in sexually assaulting her at a VMA's after party in 2000. That lawsuit originally only named Diddy as the defendant, but was refiled over the weekend to include Jay-Z's name as well. Now, Jay-Z is strongly responding to those claims, accusing the woman's lawyer of blackmail and questioning why the filing was a civil lawsuit rather than a criminal filing. All right, let's bring back our Brian Buckmeyer, working a number of stories for us today. So, Brian, let's start with Jay-Z's attorneys challenging this petition to proceed anonymously, this accuser. What's significant to you about this filing?
So the significance of it plays two aspects. One, a defense will say that in order to properly ascertain the facts of the case so that they can investigate on their own, ask their clients what could or what did or did not happen, they need to know the name of the individual. And that's probably like the more like benign reason as to why you do that. The other reason is that oftentimes in naming people, the lawsuits go away. But this is an amended lawsuit, and we already saw a judge address similar issues when Sean Combs raised this issue back in October and November when the lawsuit first came out. And the judge then said, because of the age of the victim at the time and the facts that they had, that the Jane Doe can remain as a Jane Doe. I would suspect even Jay-Z doing this himself a second time, the facts and arguments remain the same, and the judge may still allow this person to remain a Jane Doe.
Got it. All right. So what about the point that Jay-Z is making? Why is this a civil matter and not a criminal one?
So the reason why it's a civil matter is because in New York, we have these laws that allow for what's called a look-back window. The Victims of Gender-Motivated Violence Protection Acts allow for someone to bring up a sexual assault civil claim, or in this case, a rape claim that is past the statute of limitations. It can't be a criminal case because the allegations are this happened on September 7th of 2000 after an MTV VMAs after party, and that would be more than 20 years ago, 20 years being the statute of limitations for statutory rape. So this person could not file a criminal lawsuit through a district attorney because of the statute of limitations.
Got it. All right. And let's talk about just the impact that this could have on Sean Combs' case. And then what happens next for Jay-Z?
So Sean Combs has a pretty strong argument of saying for all of these civil cases, that they should be paused because he has a kind of bigger fish to fry, so to speak, in the sense of having that criminal case in the SDNY. And he can use his Fifth Amendment right to say, I can't sit for depositions. I can't participate fully in a civil case because I'm trying to protect myself in this criminal case. And I have the right to remain silent and not talk about it to fight that case. And so that could pause a civil case. But with Jay-Z, there could be potential that this case gets severed because Jay-Z doesn't have the same argument. He's not facing criminal prosecution. He can't necessarily pause this case in the same way. So this case might be expedited against Jay-Z, but paused against Sean Combs. But the facts are pretty similar, and if they come to light, it can negatively affect Sean Combs' criminal case, and of course negatively affect Jay-Z from any civil matters.
Got it. All right. Brian Buckmeyer, another case to follow. Glad we have you.
Thank you.
Coming up, Bashar al-Assad in exile. Syria's president flees to Moscow after his ruthless regime collapses.
When I was younger, my calling was to play football. But as I grew older, I realized life isn't about how many people you can knock down. It's about how many people you can lift up. At Ram, our calling is to build game-changing trucks. So when you find your calling, nothing can stop you from answering it.
During the Ram Wrap Up the Year sales event, get $5,000 combined cash allowance. Plus, current Ford brand owners or lessees get $2,000 bonus cash allowance on the purchase of most 2025 Ram 1500 trucks.
Since forever, we've hated Mondays. Monday. Our modern, award-winning formulas. Smooth, hydrate, and protect against whatever life throws at you. No more bad Mondays. Monday, hair care.
My oldest daughter, Camilla, she came out fighting. 2 days old, she had to have open heart surgery. All of a sudden, she's on, 5 different medications. Me and the pharmacist got so tight. She said, GoodRx can save you a lot of money. Saving that extra $200-300 a month. You do the math. The money we're able to save with using GoodRx, we're able to do all these extra activities. She can hit hard, too, for a little skinny thing. So it puts less stress on our household, and it puts less stress on our pockets.
More Americans choose ABC News, America's #1 news source.
What's good to watch, read? Where can I get a great deal on what I'm just dying to buy? Oh, it's all right here. GMA Life. All the exclusive and buzziest celebrity good stuff. Deals and steals with amazing savings and the coolest lifestyle tips from Good Morning America.
I love that so much.
GMA Life. Streaming weekends on ABC News Live. Your weekend just got a little better with GMA Life.
Millions of Syrians are celebrating the end of Bashar al-Assad's ruthless regime today. The brutal dictator toppled when a Syrian rebel group reached Damascus and seized the presidential palace. You're getting a look inside right now. The leader of that group now promising change for the region. Assad apparently hiding out in Russia after his friend Vladimir Putin says he gave him asylum. Together, Assad and his father ruled Syria for more than 50 years, the last 14 of those in a brutal civil war. The U.S. and its Western allies say this could be a great opportunity for change, but there's still a lot of risk and uncertainty when it comes to the intentions of the rebels. The U.S. currently has around 900 troops stationed in Syria as concerns rise over where the country goes next. Chief International Correspondent James Longman is there. James.
It's a very, very hectic situation at the border with Lebanon. We've got thousands of people trying to get into Syria.